tomorrow.
They're beginning...
On your gums, dentists say 36 million Americans brush too hard. So Mentadent invented ProCare, the only brush that bends like this. To be gentle on gums, it helps to be flexible. Mentadent ProCare.
Right now, it's your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
Burning the midnight oil here along the East Coast, keeping an eye on this vicious ice and snowstorm that has hit us, and it's going to be with us through at least part of the day on Friday. I'm Dave Schwartz. Welcome to this edition of Weather Center. From the update desk here tonight, along with me is Colin Marquis, a senior meteorologist here at the Weather Channel. You will help us get through tomorrow morning's rush hour by letting us know what we can expect. Get back to work. I've got some other work to do here. I want to show you what is going on. The cold air is in place in the Northeast. Temperatures below zero in some spots. And now we've got moisture moving in. We had one batch move in. That's this bit of white right up here. But look at all this. Enhanced precipitation over the southeast and into the central Appalachians. And that is heading right up over the same general area. So there will be more ice and more snow. We're stuck in here now. Look at this. To the north of the line from Boston to Newburgh to Milton, Pennsylvania to Pittsburgh, and then down into Ohio, we've got snow. Snowfall totals, 17 inches. This in southern New England. That's just south of Boston. Albany at 9, Boston at 7, and with that much snow around, travel ground to a halt. Here at Logan Airport, we had freezing rain and snow all day. It was blowing around. Planes were de-iced. And if you had a flight out of or through Logan, you know about all the delays. It was a rough go. And the snow continues here tonight in Boston, mixing with a little bit of sleet at the present time. Temperature is still in the teens. Now we turn to Colin, and I tell you, we've had such a rough time the last couple of weeks from the Great Lakes. We had video from Chicago, Minneapolis, Detroit. The snow kept piling up. Now it's just a few flurries in Chicago. Detroit has cleared out, but the problem has moved into the Northeast. How long are we going to have to live with this?
Problems are ongoing right now, Dave. A lot of patchy sleet and freezing rain. That's going to continue through the night. I don't think the cold air is going to give way too much. And then as we head toward the morning rush, we're actually going to see the precipitation intensify quite a bit. So during the morning rush, we can see a lot of icy conditions. Right now, we're beginning to see an area of low pressure develop across the central parts of the Carolinas. That will track northeastward, passing just east of Washington, right near New York, and up across Boston, up toward the Gulf of Maine through the day tomorrow. Meanwhile, the cold air remains across the interior parts of the Northeast. Right now, we're dealing with quite a bit of sleet and freezing rain across the major cities from Washington up toward Boston. As we head toward the morning commute, the warm air will come inland just a little bit across the coastal areas, but not very far, Dave.
Well, speaking of inland areas, the ice storm has been just ferocious across Pennsylvania and parts of eastern Ohio. Tree limbs have been coming down, power outages all over the place. Fortunately, the ice is over, however, in Ohio at least. It's turned to snow.
That's right. That is the good news. We've had tremendous amounts of ice, in some cases more than an inch on the power lines and trees, but that precipitation is changing the snow. Not good for the traction on the roads, but good for the trees and power lines.
Right. Okay, what are we looking at now here, Colin?
Okay, this is where that tremendous push of moisture is, and as you mentioned, turning to snow back in here, but across central Pennsylvania and up into central New York, we're still dealing with a lot of icing. Notice the more patchy nature to the precipitation across most of the megalopolis. That will be changing, Dave.
That will be changing. Look at all this. Look at all that just in the Carolinas.
As I mentioned at the top of the broadcast here, we have a new area of low pressure developing in central North Carolina. That's why we're seeing a blossoming of the radar echoes. As that low develops and moves to the northeast, it will take the heavier precipitation with it.
And the precipitation's going to get there sooner than the cold air can leave. Am I right?
That is correct. We don't expect much in the way of the cold air budging. We do expect that moisture to come in, so for the morning rush, it looks like, even though there's icy conditions now, we'll see pick up in intensity, so conditions will get worse right at the wrong time.
Okay, now, I talked about the end of the ice in Ohio. That's over. Wind blowing the trees around could fall some more branches onto power lines. We'll be ready for that tonight, and western Pennsylvania too. But into interior New York State, heavy snow developing up into the Adirondacks and the mid-Hudson Valley and further north. And the same thing for northern New England. But what about along the coast? What about the big cities? Boston, Hartford, New York City, Philly, Baltimore, Washington, and vicinity?
The best way to play this, Dave, is to tell the folks that there probably is going to be a tremendous amount of variability across these metropolitan areas. The farther south and east you go from the cities, the greater the chance that the warmer air from the oceans works in, and conditions will be improving. The farther north and west you go from those big cities, that's where the cold air stays in longest. That's where the most treacherous conditions will be.
So northern and western suburbs of all of those cities on the I-95 corridor, still some icy spots, but if we're lucky, we get in on the rain in New York by morning rush hour, but it will be a close call.
That's correct. Yep.
Colin Marquis, senior meteorologist here at the Weather Channel. I thank you so much. I know you've been keeping a close eye on it, and we really do appreciate it. And tune in here tomorrow morning, because we'll be watching the thermometer very closely. For example, New York City right now, it's in the low 20s. Out on Long Island at West Hampton Beach, it's 34 degrees with an east wind.